Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I have been absolutely locked into reading haunted house books, and I had originally planned this whole thing. I was gonna read these haunted house books and research the tropes and just do this whole thing. But you know what? I got up today and I thought, you know what? I feel like yapping. I'm gonna just make a video and I'm just gonna talk about the books. So today I'm going to talk to you about the haunted house books that I have been reading and what I thought about them. So first of all, the first two that I'm going to talk about is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson and Hell House, which I have been reading on my Kindle by Richard Matheson. And I would say that these two books are kind of the start, are a good foundation, very well-known haunted house books. And I think they both deserve mention in this video. So I just finished reading Hell House. I finished it today. I finished Hill House a few days ago. For my short sort of introduction of the two of them, this one, the Shirley Jackson one, is a masterclass in ambience. And Hell House, ectoplasm and screams. That's what I'm going to say about this one. But Hill House captured me right from the beginning. And this opening is just something I feel like, I know I hate it when people read to me, but I want to read this opening paragraph just because if you have not read this book, you need to hear this paragraph. It says, "No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It has stood so for 80 years, and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone." I mean, this whole book is written this way. It is just very well written. Ambiance, atmosphere, love it. This one's more in your face. It's more cynicism, anger, revenge. These are kind of the adjectives that come to mind with this one. Both of them do explore ghostly tropes, and I do like that. I really have to say that The Haunting of Hill House does so with subtlety. And I really like that subtlety because it's sort of like Shirley Jackson leaves a lot to your imagination. She trusts the reader to really take in the subtleties that are given and turn it into something. She starts out right away in the beginning of this book, from the paragraph I just read, she's talking about the house as if it were alive. She describes the house as alive. And I guess we kind of have that, right? In the haunted house genre, you have either a house that's haunted by spirits, or you have a house itself that's just, the house is sentient and the house is evil. So, or it's a psychological haunting, right? And it's the people who are haunted. So in this one, we get right away from the beginning that maybe the house itself is sentient. But then the way it's written, we're introduced to our narrator, who is Eleanor, and she's presented right away as a person that's prone to flights of fancy. She's a character who, you know, though she's presented as very imaginative, it could also be interpreted as unreliable. Is what she's seeing real? Right away, in the beginning of the book, when she's driving to Hill House, she sees this house that has these lion statues outside. And in just the few minutes that she passes by the house, she envisions and imagines an entire life for herself. I really love this character. I think that she is fun, and somebody that's imaginative like that, it's a kind of creativity. And, you know, I find that very likable. I found Eleanor to be a likable character. She had given up her own life taking care of her mother. And when her mother passed away, she moved in with her sister and her brother-in-law. And really, this trip to Hill House is sort of her first trip out away on her own, doing something for herself. So this book, just like Hell House, centers around a group of people who are invited to a house to study it and determine whether or not the house is haunted. So we have this group of people who are, and you know what, and honestly, that's where the similarities end, because this one is so subtle, this one is so in your face. So just kind of to talk about that a little bit, we have the tropes. So we have knocking, you know, the idea of you're in your house and you hear noises that shouldn't be. That's, if you take it away from the fact that you're reading fiction and you imagine it in your own house, it's really scary, right? Like, you're in your house because you're safe. Your house is your safe space, but that knocking is the idea of something coming in, something want to enter your house, something wanting to enter your room where you are. It's almost like, hello, can I come in? And it's the spirit there's nothing there. It's the same thing with disembodied laughter. It's uncanny and we don't like it. You hear somebody knocking, you hear laughing, you're looking for the source. And if there's no source for it, it's very uncomfortable. So we have that element, and it's just the way she uses it is it's very subtle. Nothing really happens in this house that's very overt. These things are happening and these people are seeing it and they're reporting these things, but it's in a way that you can almost wonder if it's real or not. Whereas Hell House, this is a whole different kind of game. We have a scientist there who is trying to study the scientific components of a haunting. And he is there with this equipment that he brings in, and he's there to study ectoplasm. And ectoplasm is the substance that was, I guess, invented as a way to scientifically study. It's supposed to be residue left behind by ghosts. And so he believes in this. That's it. Okay. Hell House loses me a little bit with this, because right away I felt a little bit annoyed that the scientist would believe in ectoplasm, psychic energy, these things, but not in the haunted house. So you have the mediums there, and he believes that the mediums have the ability to channel power. So maybe they could be faking things, but it's so big of a leap for him that ghosts could be there if he believes in one. I don't know. That lost me, just to be honest with you. Hell House lost me on that right away. But the hauntings that happen in Hell House, the activity is more overt. Whereas in Hill House, you're going to have knocking. Hell House, you're going to have banging, and it's going to progress to poltergeist activity with things flying around in the room, and just, you can't deny that there's something happening. There's no question about whether or not these things are happening. In Hell House, it's the cause that you're trying to figure out, whereas in Hill House, it's like, did you imagine that? Is the character imagining it? Is it psychological? So it's two different kind of environments. But another thing that lost me with Hell House is the characters. So in both of these stories, we have a female character that's considered fragile. So like I said, Eleanor in Hill House is prone to flights of fancy. Maybe she's a little bit, too imaginative or too susceptible to imagining things. She's often described as an unreliable narrator because of that. But in Hell House, we have Edith, who is the scientist's wife. And right away when we learn about her, we discover that the last time her husband left to go study a haunting, she almost had a nervous breakdown just because she were left alone. Come on. I find that kind of annoying when they create fragile characters, but that by itself wouldn't be enough to really bother me, except that she's constantly presented as this fragile creature. Her husband doesn't want to leave her alone out of his sight for even a minute. And then, of course, she's going to, be the one that causes the seance to be disrupted because she can't handle it. And at one point, he even ties her to the bed so that she doesn't wander off in the middle of the night. I mean, these things, they really annoy me. So honestly, Hill House is better than Hell House, in my opinion, just because the characterization annoyed me. Another thing about the characters in Hell House is everything is really sexualized. Okay, for example, Hell House was owned by a man who would throw these parties. And throughout his history, he sort of changed and made the parties become more sexual in nature. And then from there, it led into other things like murder. And the way it's presented in this book is almost as if one led to the other. And to me, that's just so unbelievable. But other problematic things about this book is a little bit of homophobia because, of course, we have an instance of abuse that happened in the past that was mentioned. And a point was made to say that it was a homosexual person who did this bad thing. And also we have a little bit of uncomfortable description of Native American. So this white woman's spirit guide is, of course, a Native American. And the way he's presented is, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just really, so it's problematic to me. I respect it as being a pioneer, a well-known of its genre book, but it lost me, honestly. And I would say if you want to read this book, you want to read it because you're trying to read the genre. Be prepared for some problematic elements of it, at least if you're like me. Hill House, on the other hand, is very subtle, very psychological, and you can get sucked into the environment of it, and it leaves you questioning a lot. I have a lot of questions left over with this book, and it's a lot of things to think about with this book. I really like it. I guess I would say that this one is brash, it's loud, it's in your face. This one is subtle and psychological. So those are the first two that I'm going to present to you. A couple of other books that I read. I read Kill Creek, which is by Scott Thomas. And this one is pretty much along the same vein of these two, where you have people going into a house. This one's a more modern telling of this same kind of story of people going into a haunted house, but it's very different because we have this character who's doing it for his website show, his online show. He's got these authors. He gives them money to come out and do an interview in a haunted house. And while they're there, we're trying to discover, it's not overtly, they're not there with the purpose of discovering whether or not the house is haunted, but that is where this story is going to go. Is the house going to affect them? Is it, they spend the night there, and what happens there in the house? And this one's a little bit different in that the haunting is not, it doesn't happen right away. It sort of comes in a new and more imaginative way. I really did enjoy this book because I liked the modern twist on it. We're talking about horror writers, and it's people who write very different genres. So we have, one that would be like the romance writer. We have the writer who's more like the Stephen King of this genre. And then we have another writer who is a Christian author who writes more spooky stories that, to my mind, it was sort of like maybe something like Goosebumps or something. But they all were very unique characters. They were all very likable. I liked every one of the characters in this book. And then I liked the scene, I liked the setting, and I liked where this writer went with the story of this book. So I definitely recommend this one. And another one that I read recently was called The Family Plot by Cherie Priest, and it was really good. I read it on my Kindle as well, so I don't have a physical copy of it. But this one was interesting because, yes, it's set in a haunted house, but this group of people who are going into the haunted house are not there to learn whether or not the house is haunted. They are there to take the house apart piece by piece, literally. They are a salvage company, and they are going in to take the valuables out, whether it's the staircase, the lighting fixtures, the furniture. They are there to break apart this house. So while they are called into this house, they are learning and discovering the secrets of the house. What's interesting to me about that one is at no point was it a question of whether or not the house is haunted. It was more of, let's get in, let's get out, let's not upset the ghosts, and let's do our job. So while we're uncovering the secrets of the house, we're learning about the ghosts of the house. And it's more like a book about discovery. And I really like that a lot. So it was a very fun read. I highly recommend it. The last two that I have here that I'm reading, these are kind of experimental. So we have Horror Store, which is kind of a take on like a store that's haunted. Horror Store. And then we have The House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. And this one, I have started this one. I have not started this one. But this one I'm really enjoying. I was not sure whether or not I would or not because it is very gimmicky. You know, it's written in a way that it's supposed to be a little bit jarring when you read it. You know, there's like this, the gimmick of the text that can be just totally different randomly in this book. You know, you do have some normal pages, but then there's a lot of footnotes, and it's kind of like two stories in one because we've got the idea of somebody found a manuscript that somebody else wrote. So we've got both voices. But essentially, it's about a haunted house or a strange house in any case. And when you think about that, if you take out some of the fact that you're reading a book and you think about it, it's really kind of spooky because in this book, the family moves into a new house and they've been there for a little while, and then they go away, and then they come back, and then they're like, was that door always there? Imagine that. You move into a house and then there's this room and you can't remember it being there. So then you go back and you look at photos that you've taken and you're like, nope, this room was definitely not there. And then you start measuring the house and it doesn't add up. The inside doesn't match the outside. And you start kind of questioning reality, and what do you do? You know, so I'm really not very far into The House of Leaves, but I am really enjoying it. And I think that it is going to be one that I do like and that I do continue to read. When I finish reading it, if you guys are interested, I'll share my thoughts on that one. And also Horror Store. But I've really just been locked into haunted house books because of the season. I love Halloween, and you know, so there's a lot more that I want to read. There's, you know, How to Sell a Haunted House that I want to read. There is A House with Good Bones. There's a lot of them. So if you have read a haunted house book that you think I should definitely read, leave it in the comments because I'm on a kick and I want to read them. So if you have a favorite haunted house book, share it in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me today.